7:30, and I promised everybody to get us out of here quick this time. Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for July 19th, 2021. Pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes of the June 21st board meeting. Does anyone have any changes or questions? Oh, well, I skipped out of line, but here, we'll do the minutes first and then back to the vouchers. I think everything's pretty detailed in here. Like very detailed, and these are very good, thank you. I added these under the current issues for the SDR too, just because there was a pretty lengthy discussion in here about that subject. Any questions? Changes? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Vouchers. They've been signed off by 2 trustees. I looked at them. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Correspondence. What do we have this month? I don't think we had anything, right?
No, I didn't.
Alright, so reports. We have Pearl Street Sewer on here. I can talk about, license plate readers are on here as well. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss under reports?
An ARPA update.
Sure.
What?
Do you want me to turn this off? Because you're very soft-spoken, and I can just barely hear you.
Turn it off.
Can you hear over there?
You can turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another over there. If you can. Yeah, do you want to leave that one on though, or?
It's all right. We're gonna hopefully be brief. So.
Yeah. I'll make us be fast. Okay. So the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds that local municipalities throughout the country are able to disseminate how they see fit in their communities. We submitted the initial application last week before the due date. And we are set to receive $32,000 in this summer and another $32,000 next summer for a total of $64,000-ish. If we're unable to spend the funds on the eligible uses by the end of December of 2024, so we have some time to figure this out, then we just give it back to the federal government. So better to be in it than not. The first reporting period, due date for villages or non-entitlement units, which we are considered, is October 31st, 2021. It'll be an annual report for us at this level. Other levels of government are at different reporting times, but we're just an annual in October. The eligible uses are going to be forward-looking, so any costs incurred beginning on March 3rd through that March 3rd of 2021 through December of 24. And I won't, unless anybody wants me to go through the eligible uses. We've kind of discussed it a little bit in the past, but we'll have to have some public meetings and talk about kind of how we'd like to prioritize this funding, and that's the lightest summary I can give. If you'd like more details, I'm happy to.
So is that like found money?
Yes.
That can only be used for specific things. Yeah.
Right. It can be used for COVID-related relief, for individuals, businesses, nonprofits who are directly related to COVID response, for the nonprofit part of it, and then for individuals or businesses who have suffered some economic challenges due to it. Also, we are able to spend it on water, clean drinking water or sewer water, or broadband expansion. And we are currently looking into, today I asked NICOM, for instance, do we have to actually have water and sewer districts in order to be eligible? You can apply, the eligible uses are anything under the federal, state clean water revolving loan fund, or anything that's currently eligible under the drinking or the sewer water funds. But from some reason in my previous research on this, I felt like we had to have our own water district in order to qualify. So I don't know if the qualified uses are still okay, or if, since we don't have our own water district, if we're precluded from any of that. So we're following up on that. We're going to be doing some broadband research that Kathleen has thankfully said she would be up for. And we will leave no stone unturned as to how we will use these funds, and then with the public prioritize.
Anything else for reports? You want to talk about the roof now?
You want to talk to Steve, and he said he can get to the roof between end of August, the beginning of September.
All right. I'd let Dave know before the meeting that it looks like we have a leak in the bathroom back in the old voting room there. So he's going to look at that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
well, that leaked last year too, the year before. The same problem, right?
Yeah, it just keeps happening.
Yeah, the same thing.
So I mean, the roof is a priority, so it's starting to fail.
Yeah, so they took the flags down in the village, if you noticed.
Yep.
Otherwise they end up, who knows where they end up.
Blowing all over the place.
We're missing one because when the cops put their thing up, they took one.
That, and we took the banner down on the front of Village Hall, the
yeah.
essential worker banner. It's going in the archives in the attic. And again, thank you to everyone who worked through the pandemic.
I talked to Bill today, and he's going to have something ready for Wednesday in regard to blacktop and Secor.
Perfect.
Secor. So he'll sit by Wednesday. He should have something for us.
And that'll go out in the papers, and hopefully we can get that going by mid-August, September.
I was just wondering if you spoke to Bill about the billing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I keep telling him.
Anything else? Going forward, old business, I'll just throw in the cell tower there. We haven't heard anything back from our attorney on that front. It's still working its way through the justice system. Pearl and Pine Street sewer update. So you'll see that it has been backfilled, but the cones are still up awaiting blacktop. That is going to be blacktop by the end of the week, Sal said. We ended up putting a clean-out valve instead of a full manhole because the cost difference between the two was like $3,400 compared to $12,000. And we don't have a confident feeling about what's under the ground there, so we didn't want to put a full manhole in and destroy water pipes or anything like that, given that it's not our system, it is a private system, and so we did what we had to do to address the emergency, and going forward, hopefully this clean-out valve will necessitate them being able to unclog the pipe. New business, we can discuss the Cold Spring license plate readers. So if everyone has seen, there's a license plate reader that was installed by the Cold Spring Police Department in conjunction with Putnam County Sheriff and New York State DOT, just east of Pisco Road. I'm being told they're not being actively monitored, but they are going to be used in times of emergency, or if there's a missing child or a missing adult. It will record license plates. They go into a database. Say someone robs a store and they have a license plate number, they can feed it into the system and they can track where a license plate goes in the county and in the state. We were a little bit ticked off because we weren't consulted or alerted about their installation. I found out about it through residents and through Dave and through Pauline. The town was similarly surprised. They have two of them, one at Little Stony Point and one just past Boscobel. They also weren't consulted. Larry Burke from the Cold Spring Police Department, who spearheaded the whole initiative, came to meet with me. He apologized. I guess the hurry was because DOT came to install the power equipment on the poles, so they took advantage of that and got the cameras up as quickly as possible. We're going to have further discussions on it. I asked, after consulting with the board, that they move the camera farther down into the more commercial area by Frost property, but we've heard from a few residents that don't like their existence, period. So one of the offers was for them to move it out of the village limits and put it into either Cold Spring or Phillipstown somewhere. So that's an option. No matter what happens, it's going to be a few weeks out because they need to dismantle the power that they put in and move that to another pole, and the state has to come and fit them into their schedule again. Hazard mitigation, we actually passed the resolution at our workshop meeting because it was borderline getting to the point where we were up against the deadline. Again, this is just the county updating their hazard mitigation plan for all of the municipalities, so that if there is a major emergency, there's something on file about identified issues in the municipalities and what our plan is to address them. Some of the highlights of ours were flooding off of the creek by Fishkill Road, the lack of a generator in certain buildings, things like that. Anything else for new business or old business or any other subject before we open to the public? Wait, maybe we should wait.
I was just wondering if we're having an August meeting.
I would like to have a regular meeting in August and maybe forgo the workshop unless we have something that's super pressing. Just to touch on STR real quick, we're still waiting for more information from our attorneys, so we may or may not have that information before a workshop scheduled in August, but as of now, let's say no, and we'll just go with the regular meeting. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Other things, the Central Hudson's coming through with the crews, and they're cutting the tops of the trees off for the wires, and they're doing great jobs. I said to the guys, "Are you going to be as bad as the last crew?" They said, "No, they were worse." They butchered a tree in front of my house.
Yeah, I mean, they killed the one on Crown Street that I had planted with my mother 35 years ago.
The mess they made down with Madoc at the one in front of the house, it's just two sticks sticking up. And then when you go down, you look across toward the street, and it's just a big opening. They just chop.
They did help us out over here on, where was it, Secor and Pearl, North Pearl. There was a branch on the wires. They got there within 3 or 4 hours after Dave called, and I looked at that tree. There is a bunch of other dead branches. The tree itself, I don't think, is dying, but...
Can we do that ourselves? I mean, get Jerry to look at it?
You can have Jerry look at it, but I think the power line goes through there, so it's a matter of what he is comfortable working around. So let him see. If he's not comfortable with it, then we can reach out to Central Hudson again and just point out the other dead
Well, they're
parts
supposed to be clearing 10 feet at the wire, and below the wire. So if it's in, maybe we can get the Central Hudson, who's taking care of them now, to look at that tree.
I don't know if it's a main that goes through there. It's just I think the power that goes to the Masonic Lodge.
No, it goes from Robinson across to another pole that goes to the next house. So the first one into the tree, Central Hudson, they would own that pole. The other pole would be private owned,
Okay.
technically.
All right. Yeah. Reach out and see what they say. Anything else? Hold on 1 second. Nothing else?
I was actually going to say something about Joe. Thank you to Joe and Heidi for registering our awesome pollinator garden that they have so carefully, lovingly put in on the Putnam Pollinator Pathways map. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a bee for her. Put a little bee on.
Did you have something else?
So I wanted to ask about, the tree came down on the gate at Woods and
Yep.
at that end of the Green Trail way back several months ago. And Paul and the Trails Committee apparently had Yanatelli's come and check out the gate, and they were supposed to repair it and put it up to try to...
I called Tino when I first got back from vacation, and I'm waiting to hear back from him. He has that, and he has our bell from the sheriff's department, so we're trying to get both back. Hopefully we'll pay for the gate, and he'll give us back our bell.
It's there, hidden.
Yeah, but the gate itself, I don't know if it could be rebuilt, because a pretty hefty tree fell on it, so if we have to get him to fabricate something out of the trail budget, it's probably going to be, $600, $700, $800, something like that. But I'll touch base with Tino. I'll try him again tomorrow. He's hit or miss. I'm better off running into him at B&L Deli. So yeah, we're open to the floor now. So we touched upon the license plate readers. If you would like to have any questions or comments on those. I'm only saying that because I may have been alerted that you...
That maybe I was... Hi, Chris Keeley.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed that section of the agenda already, so if this is repetitive, I apologize. But my core question was, what's the agreement in place with Cold Spring Police Department? If it is Cold Spring Police Department, what is their jurisdictional authority to come into Nelsonville and install something on our street? Who has access to the information that is recorded there? Who do they share it with beyond the real-time access, whoever has it with? How long will it be up? What are the terms of the agreement? And if there isn't an agreement, can a couple of us go over tomorrow with some screwdrivers and take it down until there's an agreement?
I wouldn't go that route.
Okay. All right.
That hasn't
We'll
worked
start
out.
with the last question.
That hasn't worked out well for people in the past.
Gotta get a flag back first.
I can answer some of them. So first off, I'm going to ask Larry Burke to come to our next regular meeting and kind of answer questions from the public. We did not know about them when they were installed. They never came to us for a location or for permission or anything like that. I asked him these questions when I met with him. He said that basically he didn't need our permission because it's on a state road, so it's out of our jurisdiction.
Did the state authorize it? Did he share authorization?
Yeah, the state authorized it because they installed the power source. So that's what triggered them putting them up. They, I guess, were waiting for months and months and months for them to come and do the installation. Talking amongst the board, we felt that a better location for them would be farther down by the Frost property, just because it's more commercial. But again, you're not the first resident that has expressed the concern that they're not comfortable with the Orwellian cameras that are being put up. I don't know the answers to who monitors them. I do know that they feed into a database of license plate numbers that are trackable, so that if somebody goes missing, you can put a plate number into a computer and it'll show you the route of the car, a general route.
And where are they located in Cold Spring?
None in Cold Spring, which is the funny part. So there's one in Nelsonville, two in Phillipstown.
That is funny.
And I asked him that. I said it's comical that
Notable.
that you
That
put
they would
these
do it in the
everywhere but in
jurisdiction
the
where
village.
voters live.
Yeah. In his defense of that, he claimed it was to cover the main thoroughfares, which were 9D and 301 and Pisco Road.
And there's one by Boscoville and there's one by Fishkill and
Little-
301.
No, there's one by Little Stony Point.
Oh, that's the one I didn't know about. Got it.
Yeah, Boscoville, and then this one.
Yeah, okay.
Bill Bajarski, who's a former police officer, told us that they're all over. I guess the county has them at every major intersection on the other side of the county. And we're kind of the afterthought. And he finally got the funding for it, so now this is their gift to us.
And how is it Cold Spring PD's responsibility to
'Cause
come
I
to
guess-
a different jurisdiction to install it?
Technically,
Yeah.
the Putnam County Sheriff's Department installed it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Their trucks came up. I was surprised that I saw the truck go by. Whose blue and red truck is that? I realized, oh, it's Westchester County.
That makes a lot more, well, that's different, but it makes a lot more sense if it's
Well, the
if it's
first-
the sheriff that's doing it than Cold Spring PD.
The first email I sent was to Sheriff Langley, and he referred me back to Larry Burke. So Larry was kind of the one, I guess, spearheading it, but he has a liaison with Putnam County Sheriff because, again, I don't think he could do it on his own due to the jurisdiction. Just trying to think of I do know that the main database, the regional database, is in White Plains or Westchester County, because Westchester Police were also involved with programming and installation.
That was the group in Westchester.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been coming up and using the village for canine training a lot too. So they've been up here. Beyond that, I mean, I'm going to have Larry come in, so come to the next meeting if you can, and yeah, we'll grill him.
I have a question on them.
Yep.
Do they catch speeders too, or they're just reading
No,
license plates?
it's just reading license plates. It's not actively monitored. That was one of the comments I got from a resident, was that they've traveled to China and they see these all over the roads over there, and that the government there uses them to actively kind of pen people in. Like, if you go there as a tourist, you're not allowed to travel to certain areas, and these cameras will see you, and there'll be ramifications, kind of thing. I don't think that's happening here, so I do think that it's just for license plate reading and just going into this database for active emergencies or police events.
And is there understanding yet of what the police events could be? Like, is it...
The examples he gave to us were silver alerts, amber alerts, robberies, missing persons, that kind of thing.
But do they keep track of, like, who accesses it? Because, and that's perhaps me being jaded from coming from the domestic violence field. I hear all these crazy stories of, let's say you were married to a police officer, you get a divorce, and then all of a sudden, sort of things kind of go awry, and can your ex, with an access to this database, track when you left your house, where you, sort of, it is quite overwhelming in that sense.
There is a record of everyone who accesses it, and supposedly, I don't want to give factual information I don't have, there are stiff fines for anyone who's caught misusing the system or inappropriately using it. But again, Larry Burke or someone from the Sheriff's Department can come and speak more factually about it.
So it sounds like this is part of like a bigger, and again, I know you guys have relatively limited information here, but it's more than I have. Is it part of like a larger county or state or federal program?
Yeah.
Where's the funding coming from?
It came from the federal government, Homeland Security, that came down through the state. There is the regional one, I guess, that is Westchester, Putnam, and then there's, I guess, from my understanding, another one for Orange, Rockland, Dutchess, and then the state police have I'm assuming that all of these lower databases are feeding the state police one at a state level, so that, they have the master eye of the entire what's going on kind of thing.
And they said it's out of Westchester, and you made me think, because we do have a home for domestic violence that I'm quite aware of, because I know people that work here between Cold Spring and Carmel. And it made me think now, because I hate to say it, but quite a few of the women that end up there their husbands are policemen, sadly.
Or, it's like corrections
Yeah,
officers,
correctional
we're kind of,
Yeah.
we can just generalize and make it kind of law enforcement, you hear, and, anecdotally on my end, a lot of stories of, relationships falling apart and then one party stalking the other by having access to a lot of systems that your typical abuser would never have. And it's, I understand, there is a fine if you get caught, but before you get caught, let's say you have a sneaking suspicion that your ex shows up places where they're not supposed to, but how are you going to prove it on that end? Are you going to subpoena, which we don't even understand which entity kind of keeps this information. I mean, this perhaps is...
I will say that one of the residents that reached out to me that was very critical of the installation is an active police officer at a pretty high level, and asked the same questions that Chris is asking, especially about whether they need a warrant or something like that to access the information, and I'm being told they don't. So,
I think bigger picture too, maybe some questions for like recommendations around like general security of whatever network that they're using. Can it be hacked?
one of the things they did point out is, I guess the patrol cars have had this technology on them for 10 years now. That's what those two black cameras are on the back of a sheriff's car. And one other question you had was whether they're temporary. I'm being told they're permanent.
And then the other one that I wanted to ask was, if there's federal if there's federal funding, then I'd assume the feds also have access to it, right?
Oh, I'm sure,
For the
yeah,
data.
yeah.
Brother.
I'd like to propose a second place to move it to.
Yep. Billy's Way?
That's right, one for every corner.
As I was coming up Main Street from Cold Spring today, you know, the area in Cold Spring where it's a little woodsy on the right and the rock wall that's falling in on the left.
Yep.
Seems like a very nice place for it.
We can have that
It's not
discussion too.
looking in anybody's windows.
I know it,
That's in
there.
Cold Spring, though.
And it's in Cold Spring.
Yeah,
And as far, I'm sorry, one last part of that. As far as efficacy of what the goal is, having it where it is currently versus this other proposed site that I just mentioned, there's zero difference.
Yeah, so the other location that he proposed when I told him we didn't want it there was he was going to put it in front of Town Hall, I guess because there's already power there. But then he said they frowned upon that because he wanted a camera that was to the east of Peekskill Road so that it would capture any cars that took that kind of cut through to 90. Because I told him that the red light in Cold Spring would have made sense to me. I mean, that would cover all four
Right.
ways. So yeah, we can have this discussion with him, and he can make his argument, and we can make ours.
And then lastly, obviously, this has been in the works for years. And this is the first after the fact that it's on a poll that we're hearing about it, and I think that is very disrespectful.
Yeah, we're not the only municipality that was angry.
For the record.
So next week we'll
Next
take out the
week.
ladders and the screwdrivers. Not yet, okay. All right.
I won't be.
Break it from the minutes.
I won't be. Any other public comment on anything? Nothing?
If you want to hear, I don't know if you have discussed anything about short-term rentals.
Just that we're still waiting on answers from the attorney.
I'll wait for answers to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to have a workshop in August, but we're going to plan on having a regular meeting. So
Okay.
whether we get it on that agenda or not, I'm not sure. Nothing? All right. Anything from the board before we call tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Have a good evening, everyone.
Yes, thank you.